Well, today I'm going to go check out the 2020 Toyota Corolla. I just want to check and see what it's like. I mean, you know, while it's not a 100% honest test drive, it is to some extent because it could be the next car I get for future use. It might be my next vehicle after my Ford Fusion lease. I want to see what it's about. I want to see what it's like. I know very much how the Prius drives, but I already know how the Toyota Prius itself drives, which means this car should drive similarly. But the Prius has lost me with its odd design. While the new 2019 version is better, like the all-wheel drive one is much better than they used to be, the interior still has lost me. It's just a little too, as I've said many times, Starfleet shuttlecraft-like, and I don't like it. So, you know, the Corolla, while being a lot less stuff in it, might pique my interest. Now, I wouldn't buy it now, mostly because it doesn't have Android Auto capability in it, and I'm not buying an Apple phone. I have an Android phone, and that's the one I'm using, and I don't need to be changing. I don't know what the hell's going on with Toyota. It took them forever just to get Apple's stuff in there. I don't know whether Google's being jerks, but I'm willing to bet it's Toyota's being jerks, and they're not letting Android Auto onto their system yet. So without Android Auto, basically the car has no easy GPS for me. I'd have to hang my phone. So that's the biggest loss that's going to happen. Now I'm going to try to film some stuff. I don't know if they're going to allow me to. I'm not out to use these. I really want to look at the car. I do have a real interest in this car. And I would like to, I would like to see what it's like. I want to get a real good look at all its accoutrements and so forth. Now, needless to say, I probably wouldn't get a 2020. I'd probably get a 2021 or 2022. But it'll give me a good idea of what this car is all about. It looks like it's a pretty good-looking car on the outside. This place looks like they have a red one. So I'm going to take a look at it, and I'm going to report back to you. If I can't film, I'm going to record the entire session audio-wise on my phone so I can get notes, and then I'll probably have to just get pictures and stuff online to make it a little more interesting, because I know you guys can't stand looking at my ugly mug all the time, and I know it makes for a boring video, but I'm really interested in just passing information to you guys as well, so you guys know what it's all about. For all of you who might want a second car, most of you who watch my channels, especially this video, well, this video could be either the Ford users or the Ford Fusion drivers or the Honda Insight drivers are going to watch it. You might need a second vehicle you're looking for, and maybe the Corolla is a direction to look at. I do know it's going to get great gas mileage. It's got tiny wheels on it. I think it's like 15-inch wheels, real tiny wheels, and with the very reliable Prius's power plant setup, we already know it's going to be very fuel efficient. The Prius is a very fuel efficient vehicle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut up now, and then we're going to try to segue into the vehicle. Again, I don't know how much video I'm going to be able to get, and we'll go from there and try to put this together so you guys can get a good look at what the 2020 Corolla looks like. Well, guys, I guess you can probably tell this is many days after the first half of the video, and I drove the Corolla. I got very little video I was able to do, but I'm going to try to give you some general impressions. This is not really, I think this is more a review for people on my channel who really want to see what it's like compared to the Insight. But I'll tell you some other things that I have learned when dealing with this car, what little I drove of it. I got to drive it on the highway to get an idea what it felt like, and I gave it a good once-over. So first of all, I mean, here, you can get some, here's pictures. They're probably from Toyota of what the Corolla looks like. It's generally a very nice-looking car. A little bit on the grilly side. That's something they tend to go for the Camry look, Toyota Camry look, which is fine. I kind of liked it. I thought the car was in person nice, except it was the white one, which I'm not a big fan of white, but it was a very nice-looking car. The front headlights are projector halogens. They are not LEDs. I don't know if they have. I'm sure they have LED. What do you call it? Accent lights, but they aren't LED lights themselves. It had a reasonably nice sized trunk. I might have a small video of that as well. with split fold seats. Very easy to deal with. Only came with a fix-a-flat. But then again, what else is new? They all come with fix-a-flats. This particular one had some extra accoutrements, which included some edging on the doors, mainly to keep people from bashing your doors. Also, it came with an applique on the back bumper to keep scratches on the bumper. Turns out that the side rear view mirrors on this car are heated and powered. Heated is very nice, especially for those who don't have garages. I'm lucky I have a garage, so I don't really have to deal with heated that much, but it's nice to know that it's there. Otherwise, it's a handsome-looking car. It's reasonable looking. It's got small tires. You might see me looking away. I'll actually put the list here to try to keep me in line with stuff to talk about. The tires are Yokohama's, some kind of energy-saving tires. I didn't pay much attention to it. The outside also had one of those shark fin antennas, which I happen to like too, which is also typical on the inside as well. But it's a handsome looking car if you can get over the whole grill thing, which is fine with me. So that's basically what it is like on the outside in person. Pretty basic, nice. Small tires, obviously, to get the good gas mileage and so forth. Now, when I got into the interior and opened it up, the first thing that really popped out to me was the screen. The way the screen just kind of sits right there in front of your face. It's not movable, which I'm not really shocked by. Most of them aren't movable. But it doesn't really affect your line of sight, but it does seem kind of odd. But it's not, that's just a ridiculous thing. I like the two-tone colored seats that were in this car, and they were very comfortable. I'm a fat guy, and I sat very comfortably on these seats. These seats were, of course, not powered. They're basically starting this car off as a basic kind of car for most people. They're not releasing the high-end ones with sunroofs and all that. You're basically getting a mostly basic car with lots of the tech features in it, which it does have. It has a nice amount of tech. I looked into it as best as I could. Was not too thrilled with how much hard plastic. I'll tell you one thing, the car felt kind of cheap. It didn't feel like it was going to fall apart kind of cheap. It felt like they had to save money to keep it at its price, which, when you come down to the various costs of the EX, this car starts at about, this car was $24,900. I got my, of course I'm acting like an idiot, I got my Honda Insight Touring, which is the upper line one, for $25,800 before tax and title, and that was back when they were very, very new in 2018, mid 2018. So the price is a little high. How much you can knock off that price, I really don't know. But then you get down to something like the EX, where a lot of people are getting like $22,000. This car has a lot more cheap plastic on it. Now, this car also has soft touch plastic on the top, the front dash, but it's very weird. It's kind of like a sponge kind of plastic. Very soft touch, which means basically you can head plant into the car, into the dash, and you'll be just fine. You'll do just fine. It's kind of weird. Looking at it, it isn't, but if you touch it, it's really kind of weird. One other thing, I was trying to, I'm sorry, I have to look at this list to remember some of the stuff, that I saw on there. There are 2 USB ports. One of them is in a weird place right next to the glove compartment, where your thumb drive would hang out, unless you got a real small thumb drive. Kind of in a stupid place, kind of like where they had no room for it. And then the other one is as very typical on your side in your armrest, where you open it up, you'll see there's one in there along with a 12-volt plug, which is very nice. No Android Auto. As I suspected from the very beginning. That's a very bad thing. However, they do offer a nav app you can pay $8 a month for, that you can run off your phone directly into the system. So it's not you're not screwed if you have an Android phone either. You can just, hang your phone up on the windshield and run Android Auto that way. Or you can, if you need a GPS, you can get one, so you don't have to really worry too much about that. Let's see. Unit has various power mode buttons and so forth. Something very interesting I found out on the stereo that really annoyed me. Here's an interesting thing about the stereo. Typical of most of the Toyotas I've had, you can crank this thing up to where it's distorting like hell. And it'll go pretty loud and not get many rattles. Unlike the Honda, which rattles. I had a lot of rattle problems with the Honda. However, if you're playing, say, you're playing music on a thumb drive, with the Insight, you can just poke on the line and it'll jump to that part of the song, or you can just slide the slider to where you want. Can't do it on the Toyota. It was the same like that on the Prius too. You can scan forward or back on the controls on the steering wheel, but you cannot just jump to the song. But it was very cool. I figure if you put a small like hide a sub or small sub in the rear and change out the speakers, you can get some pretty good sound out of this car. It actually sounded pretty good, but it was very comfortable to sit in. I found that very very nice too. Now getting into some of the tech of the car. It has brake hold. That really threw me for a loop. For those of you who are catching on to this video from the outside, brake hold is basically when you hit the brakes and you come to a complete stop, you can take your foot off the brakes and the car will stay stopped even if you're in drive, and hold in that position. Then you hit the gas and it goes, and you hit the brakes and stop, it'll stop and hold in that position. Real great for a lot of stop and go traffic. Absolutely fantastic for drive-through windows and stuff. You get a long line. I was shocked that it had this. Also has the typical power and sport and eco modes, which I didn't see massive differences between. The climate control, though, very interesting. Climate control had an eco mode for the heat. I think it's nice to have that added that the Insight doesn't have, that it actually has a setting that will automatically set it so it uses the heat in a way to give more economy out of the car, something that the Insight does not have in that aspect, in which case you just either don't run the heat or you're careful with the heat and so forth. No heated seats. No heated seats. What are you gonna do? What can you do? I have to compare this mostly with my my touring. A lot of you guys have EXs, so you might be able to do a better comparison with an EX and so forth. Also for safety systems, it's got, of course, lane departure. It's got automatic cruise control. Pedestrian detection. You know what I don't remember? I'm pretty sure it doesn't have parking sensors of any kind. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't have parking sensors of any kind. Now, how was it like to drive? Car drove very nice. A lot of body roll, especially in comparison with my Honda. The Honda sat much lower. This sat a little higher and felt more pedestrian of a drive. It handled pretty well, and it drove pretty well. Something very different about this car that is very much in Toyota's favor. The engine was much quieter when it engaged. Even when I slammed on the gas, the engine is 10 times quieter than the Honda. Honda has a very loud, droning type engine when it starts pumping energy into the battery. This car did not have it. I was very impressed with that, guys, and it's something to consider about. The adaptive cruise control worked very well. Interestingly enough, it had a very similar problem to what I've been complaining about my Insight. In the slow speed range of 30 miles per hour or so, the 2 times I had to test it, it didn't recognize the car in front of me that was sitting stopped at a light. The first time was reasonable because there was a small hill just before it, a tiny little hill, and then down and boom, and it didn't have time. The second time, there was no excuse. It just didn't see it. However, unlike my Honda Insight that fails in this aspect, the moment it didn't see it in the radar, the brake alarm went off, and it was loud. And it said, beep, 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 let me know, and tried to help me brake. So that was a plus on this car's design. So you got to keep that in mind. It seems like it's using the similar, maybe it's the cheaper parts or the cheaper camera that Honda decided to use. However, their brake alarm response was much better, and it took over when the adaptive cruise control did not see the vehicle ahead. Unfortunately, in my car, that doesn't happen, and that's a big problem, and I have a feeling it's a problem in a lot of people's cars. I just don't think they notice it as much as I do, since I'm almost always in cruise control. I took the vehicle on the highway. It was reasonably quiet. Again, the engine is very quiet. Drove very smoothly on the road. Gas mileage was very good, and it was in the mid-40s, 47, 48, I think, something like that. You'll see a video of the dash. I'll show you some of the dash changes and so forth on it. But it also has lane centering, like the Honda Insight has. That'll keep you in your lane. Unfortunately, while they may have lane centering, it may even be the same system. It probably is. It's Bosch. Their software sucks donkey, big time. Toyota has no idea. This system is really foobar. I was driving, and yes, it will keep you in your lane. However, most of the time on my Insight, if I drive and I'm on the right lane, like you're supposed to be, unless you're passing, and an exit starts pulling off to the side, it basically will ignore that exit, and it'll catch the line ahead and keep you within the lane you're in, unless you turn on your turn signal, in which case it's turning off lane centering and then letting you steer anyway. The Toyota really was intent on pulling me off the road a lot. Anytime the lines on the right side kind of disappeared or kind of moseyed on off somewhere, the car wanted to turn me off the road or take me through the exit, or would get totally confused. The steering response, as in the automatic steering response for the centering, was very aggressive. Normally I don't mind aggressive, but this one was very aggressive. A little bit more than it should have been. Now, there might be settings for this. I didn't have time to go deep into the computers. But I have to say the lane centering in this car, based on, it wasn't a big drive. It was 4 miles in one way, 4 miles back on the highway. Not ready for prime time, and I really think they should rethink it. I think they've made a mistake with this particular system. So it has a lot of the tech, pedestrian detection, and the Honda has it too. Honda doesn't seem to say that they have pedestrian detection, but I've had my Honda detect a pedestrian and hit the brakes for me. Didn't need to. The Honda's a little weird sometimes about that, but the Toyota has pedestrian detection, brake alerts. The adaptive cruise works fine on the highways. It had the same problems as the Honda had in the 30 mile per hour range with stopped cars at lights, but its brake alarm at least went off and it tried to brake. My Honda doesn't. At least most of the time it doesn't. I'm a little scared, I think, to wait too much longer. I don't want to crash. Overall, I like this car. All right. I'm looking right now at the video that I have, and I'm going to try to put it in here. Oh, one last thing. It has automatic lights, too. I did not know this. I don't think it has auto windshield wipers, and although all those in the Touring will understand that you should be happy there's no auto windshield wipers, they suck. But it does have automatic brights and automatic lights, which are nice, which is a very happy thing. The digital display is excellent. The center of it's digital. It has a tachometer on the left, and on the right side is fuel and temperature of the car. In the center, you can change various settings to show, distance to empty and all that kind of jazz. Turn on your safety systems and so forth. In the center upper left, it has the radar ready that shows you, whether it's showing radar contact or not. Also, it'll show it in the center. You can set it so it shows right there in the center of the dash, so you know. I didn't find a digital speedometer, but I have a feeling there probably is one. Based on just looking at this, and it only has miles per hour listed there, I have a feeling it has to show, I'm under the impression that technically they tend to put kilometers on there too somewhere. I have a feeling there's a digital. Somebody else is going to have to look into this. But overall, the dash looked nice. It was a nice blue color with green highlights and accents. And it looks very nice. The controls were generally pretty easy to figure out on the steering wheel and so forth. So overall, a pretty nice car. So now we're going to get into our hits and misses on this car. Now that I've compiled my list, I'm going to give you the hits and misses of this car in a nutshell, as if I'm some kind of real reviewer here. This video is mostly for my regular channel viewers, but if someone was just looking for a general opinion of somebody who might buy this car, and it's a car I'm considering for the future, I'm going to give you what the hits are. Gas mileage. This thing's going to get great gas mileage. I can already tell. The way it drives, it's going to get great gas mileage. The fact that it has an Econo setting for the heat, This car is going to be made for gas mileage. It's going to be very nice. Quiet. Number 2, it's quiet. Very quiet. I mean, the interior is semi-quiet, but the engine is very quiet. It's not very obtrusive when it's engaging. I mean, you can get it to roar when you want to, but it's much quieter than the Insight, which is a big disappointment for the Insight. The Insight, I wish were quiet. The engine were quieter. It just isn't. I mean, we're just going to have to, us Insight owners are just going to have to, we're just going to have to admit it. It's not as quiet when the engine engages heavily. Number 3, lots of tech. You get a lot of tech in this car, and it's filled. I was especially impressed that it had brake hold. I didn't expect it to have brake hold. And it's got all the suite of stuff, which is basically what a lot of companies are doing now. They're trying to put out these inexpensive cars that and a lot of people want the tech. They really want the tech. I like the tech. Number 4, the sound system. The sound system actually sounds pretty good. Now, I found the Prius, which are usually JBL systems, to sound reasonably good. I mean, they're not super duper, but they can handle high volume, and there's no rattles. It was pretty quiet. It distorted at very high volume, but, you get what you pay for. It's a good sound system overall. Design. I think it's a good-looking car. It's pretty basic. It's not going to turn people's heads, but it's got a good look to it. General nice design, and I like it. Comfortable seats. It's comfortable to sit in. I'm a big, fat, ugly doofus. Although I don't know how ugliness would make a difference with the comfort of the seats. But the seats are very comfortable. And I was rather shocked at how comfortable the seats were. And I like their colors and design. So those are some of the hits that I see of this car. Now we're going to get into the misses. Miss number 1, uneven handling. It handles okay, but there's a lot of body sway, and you could feel it, especially in comparison to the Honda Insight. Number 2, cheap interior. This car feels cheap. It really does. The plastic feels cheap. The parts look cheap. It looks cheap. That's the one thing that's really nice about the Insight. You get a new Insight, you're paying like an EX. You go into an EX, you sit down into it, the Honda Insight, and you don't feel like the general price you would get for an EX, about $22,000, $23,000. You don't feel like you're in a $23,000 car. You feel that you're closer to what the Touring's original price was, $28,000, $29,000. It's a much nicer design. It's much smoother looking, much less utilitarian, more enjoyable and sporty. Number 3, odd lane centering. I'd say crappy lane centering. The lane centering does not work properly, and if it does, I hope it's a learning system, which I'm sure it isn't. They need to relook at their software on this. This car, while not dangerous, is kind of disconcerting and does like to try to drive you off the road a lot. And I'm talking on an average highway. I mean, I've had the Ford act a little weird at times. Although it doesn't have lane centering, it does have lane departure. I've had it act weird on side roads where there are a lot of curves and stuff. The Honda usually just gives off little alerts here, that you're coming off the lane and all that. But neither of them tend to try to pull me off the road. This one does, so I did not like it. Number 3, an uninspired computer screen. Now, we're not talking about the dash. We're just talking about that big screen. It reminds me of the Kia and Hyundai. I remember when I first sat down on a Hyundai to purchase a Hyundai Ioniq. And the first thing the guy said, yeah, they kept with the simple, more easy look, to not flash people out on their screens. Bullshit. Their design sucks. It's as simple as that. The reason the new Honda system looks so good is, and I hate to say this, it looks a lot like Apple to me. And that's something Apple's always been really good. They've managed to make even the shittiest product that they can make. And don't tell me all Apple products are great, because we both know that ain't true. So they make some good stuff, they make bad stuff. But they make it look good. And the icons are great on it. And that's one of the big problems I have with the Ford Fusion. It's kind of ugly looking. But this is a very uninspired screen. And number 5, and this is the biggest one. $24,800, I think is what this car was going for. Too much. If it had an interior closer to what the Insight was like, then I could see it. But no. This car feels more like a $19,000 to $20,000 car when I get into it. And hopefully that's what they're going to sell it as. They're probably not. They're probably going to sell a little higher because it has the hybrid system in it. But no. This car at almost $25,000, the Honda EX is far superior overall to it in this aspect. If you're looking for something that's more fun to drive, better design, and just better overall, not perfect, but better overall and cooler overall, no. And their reliability between Toyota and Honda is very close. Toyota ekes out everybody, but I think they're riding too much on their reliability. They need to get their heads out of their butts, and they got to get the price down. That's probably why they started with an LE. And I guess another thing I would add as a lack of trims. And I can understand this. They're dipping their feet with this. They only have a single trim. Doesn't have the choice of a sunroof. I know, who needs a sunroof? Personally, I've opened my sunroof on my car twice, but mostly just to let hot air out. What I like is being able to slide open and have the sun come down. It's really nice. But extra things like, blind spot monitoring would be nice. There's no blind spot monitoring of any kind. Although, at least Honda stuck that stupid lane watch camera. I hate that thing. It's okay. Beat me with a wet noodle. But no. So this is basically my opinion overall of the Toyota Corolla Hybrid. I think it's a solid car. I think it's too expensive. I think if you're looking for something that's going to give you some good gas mileage without a spaceship feel on the inside or the outside, and it's probably going to be reasonably reliable. It's definitely going to be reliable. I think you could do much worse than the Corolla. But the inside is better. It just is. I mean, there's some things that are a little better in this car than on the inside. But no. The inside, the EX model, and I have a Touring. I went all out. But the EX model, I mean, you can get a Touring. If you can still find a 2019 Touring, you probably can get one for $24,500, maybe $25,000. Same price as this. And it's so much nicer. So much nicer. May not get as good gas mileage as this car. The Tourings are a little harder to get better gas mileage because of bigger wheels, but no. So, basically a solid car. This particular trim level needs to start at $21,000, maybe $22,000 to be dicker down to $20,500, and then maybe a higher end model at $25,500, something like that. And that's it. That's all I have to say. You got my fat, ugly, furry face today with the zits popping eye. You'd think I'm 16, and I'm still zitting out all over the place. But that's my general opinion of the Corolla Hybrid. And by all means, feel free to drive it yourself. Give it a shot. See what you think. It's not an awful car. It's a consideration as a secondary car. I just feel that if it were at $20,000, it would be a better consideration as a secondary car for good gas mileage, but no. In my opinion, all you guys who got your Honda Insights, you did just fine. You did just fine. And I've been critical of the Insight. I'm not there. I say what I really think. Well, this is Verdier out for now, and I hope this helps some of you guys. I'm sure it was a long review and boring. Take care, guys.